Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending this information session. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Guzal Hill. Guzal is a senior lecturer with our law school. Guzal, do you just want to just introduce a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you teach? Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gustel Hill, and I used to work as a legislative drafter. So it's the people who are drafting legislation for Parliamentary Council here in the Northern Territory. So I'm a lawyer. I have been working as legislative drafter, and now I'm working in CDU. I used to work at NU and CDU. I'm lecturing. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Jakub.
Yeah, thank you, Guzal. I'm just going to share the details of the challenge, and the whole purpose of this session is for you to ask any questions uh, that are probably not clear with regards to what task you need to do, and also Guzal here will be quite happy to just share a little bit how to interpret different sections in a legislation. Okay, so I'll just, because the rest of the details can be easily read from the website, so CDU Data Science Challenge website. I'll just want to highlight the important dates. So the next important date after today is the close of Python solution submission, right? And that falls on 27th of November, end of the day. And the challenge date, so by challenge date, what we mean, this is the day where when you pitch your solutions to the panel of judges, right? That falls on 6th of December, 9:30 a.m. to 12 at Purple 12.1.15. The scope and the data set, it's quite clear. And just to rehearse the rules of competition, this must be you have to be in a team of 2 to 3 students, not more than that. And we do not accept individual submission. And the data science solution must be developed in Python. There's no restriction in terms of what Python packages you can use, as long as it is Python. It's in Python, that's fine. So in terms of submission, you can either submit a .py scripts or a Jupyter notebook written in Python, right? Now coming to the task. So as you can see, there are 9 tasks here, ranging from the easy ones to the medium, hard, and harder. So what you need to know at this stage is that you can't skip task. Okay, so you can't skip task between the levels. So if, let's say, you want to attempt the medium task, you must also attempt the easy ones, right? Having said that, it is not necessary that you complete all the tasks in order to submit your solution. Even if with the time that you have, you only manage to, let's say, attempt the easy and the medium task, by all means, please submit your solution. You still have stand a chance to win, right? Because you never know. We don't know how many teams are actually capable of achieving all the tasks, right? So if relative to all the other teams, if you manage to achieve more tasks, then there's a chance to win this competition. So please do not shy away from submitting your work, even if you only complete some of the tasks. But you must not jump between the tasks. So you can't attempt medium unless you also attempt the easy one. So that's the idea here. And we are also specifically looking at a solution that could automatically scrape the HTML page of the legislation that we have listed, right? Because ultimately the idea is that we are looking for solutions where we can easily apply your code to analyze larger number of legislations that are posted online. So we really want to see solutions that could automatically scrape those HTML pages. A little bit about the submission. What you need to submit on the 27th of November is one zip file containing your .py scripts or your Jupyter notebooks. All processed data sets. So if you pre-process the data sets, that must be submitted as well. And also the requirements.txt files which allows us to replicate your Python environment along with all the packages that you use. And please clearly identify your submission with your team's name. So this could be the team name that you use when you register. And we do not accept late submission, okay, unless in an extraordinary circumstance. So to upload your submission here, please click on this link that brings you to a OneDrive upload page. So you just need to upload that zip file. Okay. So on the challenge date, what you need to do is that your team must pitch the work, the results, your approach, and all that to the panel of judges. So the duration is 10 minutes pitching plus 5 minutes Q&A per team. The judges will be looking at these broad categories of evaluation: how innovative your solution is, sophistication, the accuracy of the results, whether your approach is potentially scalable to scraping a higher number of legislations, and how automated it is, and your pitching quality. Okay, and we have included a number of recommended readings here. The idea here is that you are not, we don't expect you to be a legal expert in this pitching, right? So you just need to address the task, okay, and deliver the results that we want. But in order to give you a bit of context to the problem and maybe some ideas, so I've included some research papers here that could give some ideas how you can analyze the data. So feel free to refer to those. And before I forward this to Ghazal, I just want to highlight a number of things. The formula to calculate the flash reading e-score is found in on this Wikipedia page. So if you click on this, and you'll find this flash reading e-score, right? So all these are constant. So you just need to apply this formula. Okay. So obviously the total words, the total sentences, total syllables, those figures must be calculated by your Python code. Okay. And we will do another thing that is important to know is that we will do away with the nested list. So we have to update this. We have decided that we will exclude the need to calculate nested list, okay, from task tree. So task tree will therefore be just looking at calculating the number of sections, subsections, and paragraphs. So we will update this web page by removing the nested list. And one last thing I want to say at this point is that following the submissions of your solutions, you will be contacted with regards to a spot checking. So the idea here is that we will need you to run your code based on a test set. So Ghazal and I will take one of the legislations, we'll do the manual counting, right? And then we want you to run your code, and then we will see how accurate your output is with, relative to what we have, right? So the exact procedures of that spot checking evaluation will be communicated to you after you submit the solutions, right? So I'm just going to forward this to Ghazal to just explain a little bit about different elements in the legislation. Yeah, over to you, Ghazal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dr. Yakub. First of all, thank you very much for signing up to this challenge. I think it's very, very exciting to see students resolving this problem. Really, from the big picture perspective, what we are looking at, we are addressing complexity of legislation on example of domestic violence legislation. Of course, with domestic violence, it can be a little bit uh, divisive, but of course, with domestic violence, both males and females can engage in domestic violence, and really, there are documentaries about women uh, engaging with men on domestic violence, and the same way, it goes through all the ages, goes through all the genders, so there's no stigma attached to that. What is interesting about it is the fact that NT government is looking at a consultation on Domestic Violence Act and to see if it's working or not. And what you are particularly looking at is the fact of analyzing old problem of complexity of legislation. So that's an old problem. And analyzing the old problem of domestic violence, again, it's an old problem. Through new methods. So this is law as data method. You are looking at different methods. And what's great about this challenge is not only it's practical, but you are also working on the cusp of knowledge. This is like Dr. Yakub just said, we don't know what solutions you will come up with, but we know that will be a new knowledge. So I will just take you through the act. Jakub, we can see the act. Can you see the
Yes,
act?
yes, we can
Yep,
see your screen.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So this is Northern Territory legislation. And as you can see, so the same link that you have been given, in the beginning of any act, you will have definitions. And when you're looking at definition of domestic violence, it includes damaging property, intimidation, stalking, economic abuse. So if somebody takes money from someone else, threatening to commit anything of the above. And when you look at the family relationships, or does, for example, if you are dating someone, does it concern you? Yes. If somebody, it can be in de facto, it can be mother-in-law and aunt-in-law, it can be half-brother. So it relates to all of us, step-parents and the like. Same, even with intimate personal relationship, it includes couples that are dating, but even without sexual relationship. So at the time of dating, this act can also be applied. And then majority of this act relates to protection orders, so domestic violence orders. Who can make domestic violence orders? And we will find out that local court can make these domestic violence orders to protect the victim, who can be male, female, through any ages. Or in some exceptional circumstances, even police officer can make domestic violence order to ensure that the person is safe, the person who is being attacked, the victim is getting to safety. And when we are talking about sections, because it can be a little bit overwhelming with legislation, even some lawyers are getting overwhelmed. So please don't be threatened by the fact that it's something new and different. So you always have short title and commencement. These are normal preliminary parts of the act. You will find them in all acts. And then these little links, these are sections. So section 9, section 10 of the act. And for example, in section 10, that 1 is subsection and 2 is subsection. And when we are talking about here, it refers to section 19A of Interpretation Act. So different legislation, and you have it in your instructions, in which cases this act refers to different legislation. And it's usually, in this case, I think Dr. Yakub made a really good choice at looking at HTML documents, because HTML documents, they have the links, so it will be easier for you from this side. If you look at some sections, we can't just say, so for example, if we go to the end of this act, we can't just say this act has 146 sections. That's not true, because you will see from here, section 35 is there, but then the act was amended, and then section 35A was inserted at some point. And then you will see that we recently have in 2017 we had national uniform legislation, and here we have rehabilitation programs inserted. So you have section 85 and then A, B, C. So this is the new sections that have been inserted uh, in addition to section 85. That's why it's important to calculate the number of sections correctly. And here, sorry, I was talking about national uniform legislation. That's when we are talking about national recognition of domestic violence orders. So if, for example, victim moves to a different state, the same victim can go and register. They don't have to apply for a new domestic violence order because legislation is different throughout jurisdictions, but they can use the same domestic violence order that they used in NT. All they have to do is just register it, recognize it. Dr. Yakub, anything else? Okay, sorry. I will show you enactment.
How about
So
amendment and enactment?
Yeah, okay. With every act, you will have endnotes at the end. Okay, sorry. Usually you have transitional matters. That's transitional matters happen when legislation has been amended. So for example, you can see here in 2016, legislation has been amended due to Justice Legislation Amendment, Vulnerable Witnesses Act. And the same, here we discussed Part 7.4, transitional amendments for this particular national uniform legislation. And then you will have endnotes. In endnotes, what you will see is, first of all, here, this is very important for your challenge. The first time the act was enacted in 2007. So this is list of legislation. We know that assent date, that's when Governor General signed off on this legislation, was 12th of December, and commenced when actual legislation came in force and started to be enforced was 1st of July 2008. Here is Gazette. All legislation has to be gazetted, but that's not important for this challenge. What's important for this challenge is when this legislation was implemented, and that was in 2007. However, here is the difference. It started being used in 2008, but for our purposes, it's 2007. And then it was amended several times. So in this case, I think we had one enactment and 15 amendments. I think 15 acts and one amendment as recent as 1st of March this year. And it commenced on 2nd of March. And then you will see which particular sections were amended, but that's not relevant for this challenge. What's relevant is when legislation was amended and how often, but you will be able to calculate that.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you, Gazelle. I will just repackage some of the things that you have explained. That's really great. And after that, are you able to give some examples of cross references from this?
Yes.
Yeah, but so I'll just repackage what you have said. So let me just share my screen. So regarding the task 1, 2, and 3, okay. First thing, word count of a legislative text. So this is the entire legislative text, including each content in the section. So here we are asking for total word count. So we are not asking for only legally relevant words. Any word is included in this word count, whether it is the and those stop words. So if you are familiar with stop words, do not apply stop words filtering because that will take away some words. So we are just asking for a simple total word count. Okay, but you can remove all the punctuations and all that. We will not be counting those punctuation marks. Okay. Task 2, word count per chapter. So obviously you need to know which chapter, what constitutes a chapter. So this is a chapter. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Gazelle. Okay, this is one
Perfect. No,
chapter.
perfect.
Yeah, and then word count per part. So this is one part, right? So one part includes multiple sections. Divisions. This is a division. This is one division. And then subdivisions. Sometimes the legislation will have a subdivisions. So subdivisions include this, but the division include this. Okay, they're quite related. And then sections. So sections quite easy. Every link here is a section. So 5 is one section, 6 is one section. So you need to look at how many words are there in this section. And like as what Gazelle has clarified, 35 and 35A, these are two separate sections. Okay, and also number of sections. So we want you to count the number of sections. So that means how many sections are there in this legislation. This is one section, another section, and so on. Okay, so be careful. The last 146, this is not the true count of the sections, because you can see that 124B, 124C, these are separate sections. So they are each of them is a section on its own. Subsections. So if we, let's say, let me try this. Yeah, one is a subsection. This is one subsection, and then this is another subsection. Okay, so we just look at we just want to look at one subsection below the section. Okay, paragraph. I think this is a paragraph and this is a paragraph. So it's quite sometimes may coincide with sections. And as I said, forget about nested list. So you don't need. So this is a list within a subsection. So but you don't have to detect that there is a list here. So just ignore this nested list. Okay. And also with regards to the evaluation, we need you to structure your code in such a way that there is one Python function that will answer each task. So one Python function that will take an input, resolve task one, and produce an output. So that will help with the evaluation. Then restructure your code also that there's another function that tackles task two, another function that tackles task three. Okay, so this will be important as we for the spot checking that I mentioned earlier. And I think that's what I have at this moment. So I forward it back to Gazelle on the cross-referencing.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
So with cross-referencing, if some sections will have it, some sections will not have it. I will go to definition section because definitions usually have it. So look at this. So in definition section 4, approved form. Approved form means a form approved under section 126. This is, if it just refers to section 126, that means it's section within this act. And then we will go what kind of approved form. That's the form for domestic violence order. Who can approve it and how it should be approved by chief judge. And that's chief judge of the local court. But then sometimes the cross-reference will be made to the different legislation. So for example, complainant, the person who complains, that's the victim. And complainant is already defined in different legislation, which is Evidence Act. So according to section 21G of the Evidence Act, let's go to that section 21G. So here you are, it's already Evidence Act, and complainant specifically for domestic violence offense proceedings means an adult against whom a domestic violence order offense, the subject of the proceeding, is alleged or has been found to have been committed. So see it alleged victim. So we did not establish it just yet. And let's look at other cross references. Electronic communication. So again, they don't want to define it in this Domestic Violence Act because we have a separate act for that, and that's Section 5 of the Electronic Transactions Act. And that's probably any record. So that was electronic communication means communication of information in the form of data, text, or images by means of guided or unguided electromagnetic energy or both. A communication of information in the form of sound by means of guided or unguided electromagnetic energy. And so basically, if in domestic violence situation somebody sends someone else an image which is not the text, the threat was by image, it can still be considered as an electronic communication and can still be considered as evidence for these purposes. Similar, family law order refers to Family Law Act, and then we talk about information commissioner. That's probably familiar for you in terms of privacy. So we look at the Information Act.
So Gazal, at this with this example, yeah, just stay there. Let's say the link to section 102, that is an internal cross-referencing, right? Because it is
That's
pointing
exactly
to
right.
a
Yes,
section within the same law. But section 78H1 of the Sentencing Act, so that those are external cross-referencing. So with regards to task 7 and 8, so task 7, we want you to just count how many internal cross-references you find in this legislation. And then task 8, how many of the external cross-references. And task 9,
that's exactly.
whether you can, so this is where we test whether you can find interesting patterns by looking at all these cross-references. For instance, whether a legislation that has more cross-references tend to be more complex and things like that. And ultimately, your solution need to allow us to compare, or you need to be able to present which legislation is more complex. So we've given you 5 legislations, right? From the ACT, NSW, NT, Queensland, and Victoria. So in your presentation, it is crucial that you tell the judges which legislation is complex and why. So based on your solutions. So
Exactly right.
yeah. Gazal, do you want to add anything else?
Just really that the students are working on the cusp of knowledge, and this is something that hasn't been done before, and this is exactly what Australia as federation is grappling with at the moment. And we both in the topic of domestic violence and both in the topic of complexity of legislation. And also, this is quite interesting act. We didn't mean to select this act as so interesting, but what's so interesting about this act, it refers to legislation of other jurisdictions of the same domestic violence act, but in other jurisdictions. That's not usual, but we luckily got it for this act. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, we just want to open these to questions. So that's the main purpose of this session. So do you have any questions? So feel free to pause in a chat if you prefer. But this is your best chance to clarify. Yep, Sanzaki, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. I have a couple questions. So I want to clarify a couple things. First, what's the difference between subsection and paragraph for just in the sense of word count? Because the subsection is like the part after one and A, B, C, D is almost like the same as the paragraph. Is there any different or how we, if that makes sense?
That
Yeah,
makes absolute sense. We were thinking about it. Yeah, that's a really good question. Maybe you will find out there is no difference. Maybe you will find out there is a difference.
Yeah, this is probably quite a good question.
Good question.
What so I think what we can do is to further clarify whether there's a need to calculate the words within paragraph versus the word within subsection. So let me have a look at the task per chapter, per number of section. Okay, so I can share to address that. Okay, if you look at task 2,
Yeah.
in terms of word count, in terms of word count,
Oh, it doesn't
there's no
include the
requirement for
subsection.
paragraph.
Yeah.
So I think the issue here is with the number of sections and subsections.
Oh,
there
okay,
is
yeah.
still a
The-
possibility that within
the
one
paragraph
subsection,
yeah, has more.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
there could be a possibility where within one subsection there is more than one paragraph.
Okay, so
Right,
and
so you
also
could so you could
yeah,
have more paragraph than
then
you
the
have
yeah, it makes sense.
subsections. Yeah.
Okay, also for the task 1 for the word count for the total text. So it's, for example, ACD have a 210 section, and do we count just like the first page and the words in each section, or do we also include the endnotes and all those like little link at the bottom part of the page? The schedule 1 or dictionary and endnotes.
Another fabulous question. We were thinking about it with Jakub as well. I think for the purposes of the exercise, Jakub, just all of it. Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
All of it.
okay.
We were discussing
it,
that all
yeah.
of it. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, so for the task 5, we have to the task 4 is like the initial year of the act is issued. Task 5 is like how many times it implement. So it will be many years. For the output, would you like to have a list of years? Or
Yes,
what's the
it
output
says
should be look
extract the
like?
years. Extract the years. So let's say the amendments are done 10 times. So that
Yeah.
will be the frequency. So frequency is
Yeah.
just 10. And then the years. What are the years? What are those 10 years? In which
Okay.
year? Yeah, that's as simple as that.
Okay.
Just to clarify a bit,
Yeah.
what kind of legislative text? This is the entire legislation,
Yeah.
not just what you see on the first page.
Yeah,
That includes every words in
the section. Yes.
yeah, yes. Okay.
Okay, so for my last question is that for the cross-reference part, let me see. I was on the X that like for the definition part, like domain family, and when I entered to it, it has like the text was in blue, and if you click on it, you can jump into the detail, but it doesn't necessarily say that the section 1 or section 2. So is that count as refer to another section of law or any text with the URL hyperlink with it? Is that will be the section from another law? Sometimes, yeah, act like I was on the first data list ACT.
So,
And for
okay.
example, the section A, family violence.
Section. Okay, this one, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's like family. Wow, are we looking at a different data set?
We are looking at the NT.
I was looking at the Australian Capital Territory.
Okay, let's have a look. ACT. Okay. Which section?
So family violence, section A.
Section 8.
Yeah.
Okay, I click on this.
The family violence.
Family violence.
Like in family number, also if you click on it, it will refer to another detail of the act, but it doesn't say necessarily like section or do we count as
That's not reference.
Okay.
That's not reference. It's just definition. It's just the fact that they're showing that there is definition within the act.
That's not,
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't say section
It's like
or doesn't say the act, it's not a reference. Oh, okay.
No, it's not.
That's clear.
But good question. Good looking. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. Anyone else has questions? Yeah, just to motivate you a little bit, that we have as panel of judges, we have Ewan Perrin. Ewan Perrin is the executive director of digital government at the NTG. So he will be there as one of the judges. And obviously we have Ghazal, and also we'll be having a representative from the Office of Parliamentary Counsel. Right, so we have a group of important people as part of the judges. So hopefully that will motivate you to attempt this challenge. We will, if there might be questions that Rosie,
here.
please. Joshua first, I think. Joshua, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to ask, what was the difference between internal and external cross-referencing?
Ghazal, do you want to take this one? The difference between internal and
I'll show you. Just a second. So if we look, for example, this is NT Section 4, Northern Territory Consolidated Act Section 4. And if it says just section, that's within NT Act. But if it says Section 21G, Evidence Act 1939, that means it's some other act. So similar here, or for example, let's look some other example. So here, registrar. Who is registrar? We don't know who is registrar. But if we look at Section 3 of the Local Code Act, we will be able to know who is the registrar. So let's look. Who is the registrar there? Registrar of the court. Again, see, this is typical for legislation. It refers again to Section 71B of this Act. Chief Executive Officer, main assign principal register of the court. So it's registrar of the court of the local court. But we find the definition in another act. And of course, we think, Dr. Yakub, and according to the complexity report, the more cross references to external legislation you have, the more difficult legislation is, the more complex it is.
So Ghazal, can we say that any link that has the word section or act, those are cross references, whereas going back to the previous question by Senzaki, let's say family violence. So there's a link for the word family violence. So that is just a definition that should not be counted as a cross reference. Is that correct?
No, yeah, that's exactly right. I just want to look at some other. So, for example, I'm looking at legislation in Victoria. Just want to double check before I. So every time they say section, that's usually, yeah.
So let's
If it says Section 3, that's internal cross reference. But if it says Section 3 of the Evidence Act, then it's external cross reference. I think that's the correct definition, Dr.
Yeah.
Yakub.
Can we go back, Ghazal, to the ACT? So probably I could just share my screen, just make it easy.
Yep. Just to double check.
Sorry. This one. So this is the act from ACT that Senzaki brought up just now. So
if you go to
is it
Section
correct
3,
to say that this link is not a cross reference?
No, it's not. It's just terminology. No, it's not.
So for the purpose of this competition, we only consider, so all these are not cross references. These are just definitions.
No, these are not. No.
But links that has
if you go
the
to
word
Section 3,
if you go to
Section 3, which is dictionary,
this is a cross reference, right?
This is the Firearms Act. Yes, that's cross reference.
Yeah, Section 6
that's
is also
Yes.
Yeah, so if you have one, what do you call it? If you have one legislation, right, in a certain jurisdiction, and then it references some terminology in another jurisdiction, but still within the scope of the domestic violence? Is that still considered a external cross-reference or internal?
If it is the other jurisdiction, yes, it's definitely external, but it will not reference the terminology. It will reference something else. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not going to be, but yeah, it's external reference. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as long as it is referring to a section within the same act, it is internal. And any section that is outside of that act that we are looking at, regardless of what areas of legislation, it is considered external. That's probably, yeah. Yeah, Rosie.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Jakub, and thank you, Juja. I have two questions. So first question is the same with Joshua about cross-referencing. So from my understanding is like, is it any part related to refer to the act, like act and year, is considered external reference, and in any part that have section, that mean is the internal reference. So that's all good now. And the second one, I would like to ask about the paragraph that in the task 3 about counting how many paragraph. Because when I review it, I see there's some let's say they do have some subsection, but under subsection they have A, B, and A, B, C, D as the like small part, and under, let's say under B have like one and two like subsection. So I just would like to ask about how we can know like, is it like the whole paragraph, or is it mean the smaller like subsection is considered one paragraph and subsection is another paragraph? Is I just looking at the section 100 of the Australian Capital Territory. They do have ABC, and under B have like subsection. So, and also they do have the example. So
Yeah, yeah.
example. So do we consider example is the back paragraph as well?
Example is not section, is not subsection, but it is paragraph. Actually, you're right. And we have notes in some other acts. We have notes. Notes are not subsections,
Yes,
but they are paragraphs. You're right.
Yeah, so they do also have the note 1 and note 2. So should we consider like any, like under any example is considered as the paragraph, and any another like under note consider another paragraph as well?
Yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Yes.
So
Well,
can we get
yeah.
back to you guys on this issue of paragraph?
sure,
I think
sure.
the fact that
Yeah.
this has been raised twice, we
yes,
probably
yes,
want to be a bit careful this time to yeah, to really approach this paragraph thing. So we'll get back to you as soon as possible, and communicate it what we want, whether we want to proceed with paragraph, if yes, how we define it, or if it is we find it too complicated for the purpose of this challenge, then there's a possibility that we may just scrap it off. Is that okay,
Yeah.
Gazelle?
Perfect. And look at this. So for example, here with this section on the screen, we had 3 subsections. So one section, 3 subsections. There were more paragraphs, but as Dr. Jakub said, we might scrap the idea of paragraph counting.
Yeah, if we find it more confusing than
Confusing, yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that
That's
question. Anyone else? Maybe we take one more question. Yeah. Yeah. If
I have a question for students.
Sure.
Why did you decide to take part in this competition? So what was your motivation to take part in this competition? If you just could put something in the chat, just 1 word, 2 words, why you decided to take part in this competition. Oh, love for data science.
It's nice.
Challenge of skills. Fantastic. Improving Python skills with interesting topics. Fantastic.
I think I just want to mention also the fact that one of the judges, even from NTG, he did mention that they are really looking for more skills in more data science skills where you can work with structured and unstructured data. So this is a good example of a rather unstructured data. So if you could demonstrate the skills in dealing with this kind of data, that will be really, really attractive, I think, to the industry.
Fabulous. Fantastic, Rosie. I really want to understand and learn more about the law, especially violence topic, and applying data science skills to figure out some interesting facts which bring benefits to the industry and society. Fabulous, Rosie. Yeah, fabulous answers.
So, and in fact, recently there is a move at the Commonwealth level to simplify legislation. Is that right, Gazelle? Right.
And also, they just released a report when they want to stop domestic violence within one generation. So that will be interesting if we can achieve it or not. But this is a big challenge. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're just waiting for Tracy Tracy is typing, so just wait for one more
I see.
comment, and then we can close this session if no one else has any question. But we really want to encourage you to just make that submission, regardless of how much you can achieve out of the task that is given. Right. The whole idea here is that at least by completing this challenge, you are at the same time building a portfolio of data science work, and you can then show that you have done something, you have done this project when you apply for a job. I think that's really really helpful to make you competitive in the market, right?
Fantastic. And Tracy
Yeah.
says she wants to
Yeah.
learn on the real data to fill the gap between her skills and skills that the employer needs. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good answers. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Gazelle, for
Thank you.
for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay.